It's helped me in the highs and the lows. Wisdom comes from experience, and experience comes from making mistakes. I think our lessons coming from failure can be our best teacher. We help contractors who want to grow their business. First off, they're growth minded. Maybe the culture itself in their sales team is not retaining the type of people or attracting the type of people that are getting the job done. So we're looking for people who are hungry, people who are driven, people who have a motivation and a desire to see that the vehicle of sales will help them succeed in life.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Unemployable Podcast. I'm Jeff Dudan. If you grew up in a family construction business and as a teen witnessed firsthand the importance of sales and selling systems, if you pursued athletics and was drafted by both the Pittsburgh Pirates and the LA Angels as an outfielder, if you found your way into roofing first, working for a premier roofing contractor in South Florida and breaking away to launch STG, the Sales Transformation Group, where he has helped over 1,000 businesses sell their way to a brighter future, your name could only be the incredible Ryan Groth. Welcome.
Thanks, Jeff. I love that intro. That was fun. Good, man. Just sit back and enjoy your show. Awesome. Well, hey, I appreciate you. I was trying to remember. I know where I met you and I know what we were doing, but I don't remember the event that we were at. But I appreciate you coming on. It's been a minute. Yeah, Rhino X, right?
It was Rhino X. That's right. That's right. Are you going back this year?
Not this year.
Okay. All right.
Are you? You going back?
I texted to see if they had still. I didn't react right away. They got a few spots open there, but I haven't pulled the trigger yet. So probably not. Doesn't sound like it, but we'll see. Well, anyway, here's the opening question for you, Ryan. Why do small roofing companies stay small, and why do others scale?
It's business acumen. I think that you gotta. A lot of the folks that stay small, they're contractors, and they're like, we're going to be a contractor. We're roofers. This is how we identify ourselves as. But I think that you see the shift when people mature from, they evolve from, hey, I'm a roofer to I'm a business person that happens to own a roofing company. That's why, being 39 years old right now, I've been in the industry for almost 13 years. I've really grown a connection to like those generational handoffs and like the changes of hand, just because I'm, thinking about the next generation as I'm speaking with companies. And you'll see that those who they go to school, they get an MBA or they get some exposure to some different skills in business and business acumen. They come back, they're able to grow the business. And do they know as much about the trade itself? Absolutely not. But they've learned the business. So I think business acumen is my answer.
What's the adage about generations of family businesses? The first generation starts the business, grows the business, understands the business. The second generation, like you said, goes off, gets an education, takes advantage of the resources that the first generation has built, goes to get their MBA, come back in and scale the business. And then the third generation grew up soft and they tank the business.
Yeah, that's all right. Yeah. To see a successful 3 generations is absolutely rare and special. I know one contractor who's a 4th generation guy. I think they might have their 5th on coming up, which is unbelievable. But yeah. Well,
private equity has interrupted the cycle. And there's a lot of activity in all of the trades, plumbing, mechanical, HVAC, but also in roofing and restoration. And we've seen massive roll-ups. So when that second generation comes in and scales it, they also maybe aren't as emotionally connected to the asset. And maybe that's not such a bad thing.
Maybe not.
Yeah. You work with, I don't know, I think I read somewhere, maybe you've helped 1,000 companies through your consulting business. I'd like to talk a little bit about your business. Who do you help? What do you do? What kind of programs do you offer people? And is it all in the roofing industry?
Great question. We help contractors who want to grow their business. First off, they're growth minded. They understand that sales is a constraint. So whether they are frustrated with their sales process, they don't have a sales process, maybe their sales training or the process they've been exposed to isn't quite working. So whether that means their job size isn't where they want it to be, their margins, their closing percentage, maybe the culture itself in their sales team is not retaining the type of people or attracting the type of people that are getting the job done. But nonetheless, they're growth minded and they understand the idea of if we're the best sales organization we can be, that'll make revenue predictable, then that'll allow our backlog to be more predictable, and we can, grow steadily and create a better, business to serve our communities. And so we serve them by performing sales leadership workshops. We like to go to their office, and so we go out for a 2-day event, and we work with their leaders, and we assess their leadership competencies specifically for sales management. And we help set up sales plans, sales goals, KPIs, introduce some concepts around the sales process itself, what a playbook is, just the foundational infrastructure for the sales department. Many times when we're working with a contractor, it's like they built the house, but they don't have like the game room, like they don't have the theater room. Like we need to construct that like from scratch in most cases. What are the job descriptions like? What's the comp plan? What should we have? Like we need to build that infrastructure with them, which is a lot of fun. But we have to find out what their goals are and what they're doing. So we do a workshop, and then we do a 2-day sales team kickoff. So many of the contractors we work with, and to answer your question, it's not just roofers. Like we were at Pantheon last year, and we have a couple like glass contractors. So we're working with both residential and commercial. We work with roofing. We work with HVAC. But the sales team kickoff is really a momentum shifting event because we're introducing some new things. Like the change management curve is real. Anything new, they're going to be met with some resistance and depression, and they stick with it, and then they start to see the success. We set up, I like to say, like we set up these contractors to look like rock stars because that may be the first keynote sales presentation they're doing about changing direction in their business that they've ever done. So we'll be at their office. They have an hour-long keynote that says, here's where we've been, here's our story, here's why we're shifting, here's why we're embracing a new sales methodology, here's why we're working on sales, here's what we're seeing in the business, here's why we're making a transition to this. We get them to buy in, the company to buy into the direction that leader is wanting to take, and we're just helping facilitate that. And then we get involved with the training itself and introduce sales process and show some sales deficiencies through an assessment. And we share the power of adjusting those. And then we start to roll out what an ongoing coaching engagement is going to look like. And then with that ongoing support and engagement, we have courses and group calls. I actually run, unless I'm speaking at an event that I didn't want to miss, I run every Thursday call. We have a C-suite, we call it the boardroom call. So anybody in leadership, we do a Q&A hot seat style call. And then we have a commercial, then a residential sales coaching call where sales reps come on and they get coached and trained in groups. That's like kind of our core basic program. And then
now, is that by company, or is that anybody from any company shows up to those sessions?
That would be anybody from any company, large group.
Okay.
And then we work directly with sales leaders and owners to do sales leadership coaching and what we call our sales builder program. We're customizing playbooks, all the things we have like 50 weeks of programming, and we're just working them through. And then our biggest service is Platinum, which is that service plus a 1-day visit on site at their office, and then some fractional sales management where we spend 3 more hours a week supporting their sales teams with huddles, some role play training, and running their sales meetings. We help run the sales department. We just don't hire or fire people. That's up to them, but we implement the SCG systems and training and management system to help their team succeed. And a lot of times the companies we work with are contractors who aren't necessarily the most sales-oriented company. They're like, man, we're order takers, we're operations people. We don't have a sales culture, or it's okay, and we want you guys to help us be better. And that's a big part of the industry.
People have to be motivated to bring in outside consultants, advisors, training. I was in Vistage for 9 years, and one of the realizations is any new CEO or president that joined our Vistage group, I learned to just wait until the second or third meeting to find out how dismally wrecked their company actually was. That actually led them to sign up. It wasn't, they wouldn't say it right away, right? Because everything, everyone's like, oh, I've got this business and it does this. And, we're having growth and we're having all this. And, by the third meeting, it was, my father is, trying to steal the business from my sister-in-law and we're all of the things, right? All of the things that are going on because you don't make that investment in time, energy, and money unless something's not working and there's a crisis point. What for you when you come in, I think you started down the path of saying, look, we're an operational company. We've been doing well. We've been in Charlotte for 50 years doing flat roofing. And we run 20 crews and we do $25 million a year or something like that. And we got repair, replacement, service contracts. We work with HVAC companies when they replace the units. We have all the things, right? But like their salespeople are kind of their technical people, and they're flat in revenue. Or what's happening now is more people become more sophisticated using tools and AI and all of the things. Then maybe they're losing market share. Is that typical? People call you and eventually you get in there and you find out like there's an underlying problem within the business that led them to reach out to you.
They do, and if it's left unaddressed, it can cost them a lot. For example, one of those let's just say residential roofing company in the storm southeast corridor, Midwest down to the southeast, they'll say, the insurance laws are changing. Our salespeople are used to selling a $1,000 deductible. They don't know how to sell retail. Now they got to sell $25,000 spruce system, and they never sold value to save their life, and they've never done it. They have some old. We got to get our whole culture to be able to sell like that. Okay, that's one. Another one would be, we have order takers that they show up and give a quote. They don't really close. They can't close anything. They're emailing bids. Our whole culture is just like an order taking culture. Or, they have this commercial Charlotte company you just threw out there as an example. You'll be like, well, new construction, we've been depending on that, and it's super cyclical. We don't know if it's going to dry up, and we need service. In fact, we struggle with cash flow because we have retainage and general contractors are holding our money and they're professional buyers, and we need to get more service work because the margins are great, the cash flow is better, it helps us turn into re-roof jobs. We really don't have a sales culture around that. We don't have one person proactively selling service. We just signed up a company that is doing about $280 million a year in total contracting, commercial company, but they do $5 million in service. Well, that's a very poor ratio for most commercial companies. It's all 1,000% reactive, right? They don't have one person going out there creating value with existing buildings to extend the life of their roof, which we know ultimately. So all that said, there's going to be a pain point there, or if they're savvy enough, they've been around enough, they can see further down the road and say, we need to recession-proof this business. We need to be proactive, not reactive. So there's a few different things like that happen that we show up, or they're just realizing, man, like the industry is becoming more competitive. There's more roofers than ever, and I'm not holding accountable my sales team the way that I know I should. It's lackadaisical. It's loose. I'm losing people. They're starting their own companies. I got to figure this out, or I'm just going to do it all myself and just be a one-man show with a small team for a long time. And that's the reality.
Small companies stay small. When entropy happens, friction happens, you hire key people, you get things going in the right direction, they leave, you start having service exceptions, you start getting poor reviews, your scores go down, your cash flow disimproves, and many small business owners don't push through and rebuild the company of the future. They revert back to the company of the past.
Yes.
And they just say, I'm going to stop doing things until the business is comfortable again for me to run. And that's why some huge percentage, 90+% of companies are less than $1 million out there.
Yeah.
They're jobs. They're hard to run. $1 million service business is the hardest to run because you really don't have enough money to hire professional management, professional sales, all of those things. But all the things have to be done. So now you end up wearing 7 different hats and master of what's the saying? Not doing any one thing well.
Yeah, jack of all trades, master of none, or something like that. Yeah,
there you go. Is there any of the trades that does a better job scaling their business than others?
Yeah, I've noticed that. The HVAC world seems to be, on average, more sophisticated than roofing. They have had more exposure. Here's a fun example. I just met a roofer, or a guy in a roofing company that's interviewing us to do their whole commercial sales across all the brands of the company that they were acquired by 2 years ago. This guy doesn't talk the same as he did when I met him. He's learning an entirely new vocabulary. He sounds like the private equity guys. But because roofing is still kind of new, the private equity is relatively new. I mean, it's changed a lot in the last few years, but I just think that the sophistication level of that type of thinking has been in HVAC longer. And so we see that there's more resources and there's more exposure over there than in roofing. And so, I find that, some of the smartest people I've ever heard run big HVAC businesses. And, I see that a little bit more than I see in roofing. So I'd pick those guys right now. And then, there's commercial, which is a completely different sector, but I would speak to that on the residential side right now.
What is the state of insurance and insurance coverage in the roofing industry? You may or may not want to speak to it directly, but certainly there's been rumors coming from various states about deductibles or just hail exclusions on roofing. Insurance companies, I don't know the last person that paid for their own roof. It's always seems to be insurance paid. A hailstorm blows through, everybody's door knocking, and if you can go to the weather report and find out there's been hail and you've got some shingle damage, then it's been a covered loss. Is that changing, and how fast is it changing, and how widespread?
Yeah, I would say that I don't know. I'm not the most expert. I'm not the biggest expert on this subject, but I know that in certain states and certain counties, it's already changed where you're basically having to sell the equivalent of a retail job, and they have to finance that deductible because of how the laws are changing. And I think that it's going to continue to change, and I don't know how many years we have but it's definitely not what it used to be. Like now more than ever, you need to do an annual inspection. You need to sell relationships, not jobs. You need to be in the community. You need to be branding. You need to be building those partnerships now more than ever, because people are going to be spending real money, and they're not just going to let anybody do their roof. So they need to know it's a trusted brand, that somebody's going to stand by their work and do a good job. I'm seeing that people are starting to scramble now and say, we either need to get into commercial because we know we want service and more predictable revenue, or we need to start adding retail as a larger percentage of our business now. People have already shifted from 20 to 40%, 30 to 70% last year. They're already making the change. It's kind of an answer to prayer for many of them, because like Colorado, for example, they didn't have hail for 4 or 5 years. And so they had massive amounts of companies going out of business. And unless you changed your retail or did more exteriors or commercial and diversified, you were done. But then they got whacked, and then some people, who were able to sustain it, crushed. But I think there's other people that may know more information about that, about the timing. But I could tell you that the ones that I had chatted with, I was just at RoofCon, an expert, who's really sharp with the shingles and, deficiencies and issues around shingles. He was like, what you're talking about with relationships is going to be more important than ever. People are hurting, and it's going to be even worse. It's changing a lot. So I think it's coming pretty fast.
What about shingles? Every product, you've got children, correct? You have 4, 5, 10,
6.
6. I knew it was more than I could count on one hand, since I had that extra pinky removed so my gloves fit. But look, at Lunchables are getting smaller. Every juice boxes are getting smaller. What's going on with shingles? I mean, I've been roofing since 1992 is when I first started roofing. I was in South Florida. I was working Hurricane Andrew, and man, we did hundreds and hundreds of reshingles. We did commercial roofing. We used to do the torch down roofing. So that's what we were putting on. But the EPDM membranes, they weren't out much yet. So there wasn't a lot of rubber membranes and things like that. It were just coming out. So we were doing asphalt, modified bitumen, torch down roofs, and then shingle products on anything that had enough slope to it. And, if I pick up a bundle of shingles now, same thing, let's say just a 3-tab standard shingle, I think that bundle weighs less than it did back in 1992. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, they're trying to find ways to make it more affordable. You got to stick with the right companies. Quality is really important. I don't care how, the warranty, the marketing materials that some of these companies put out. We choose to partner with Certainty. They're the longest standing building material company and longest standing manufacturer of shingles in the country and the world. So we partner with them, and they're the most quality. So big plug for Certainty. They do business builder workshops throughout the country and bring in their contractors and educate them. And we've been a part of those seasons for 3 or 4 years, and they've been incredible. Yeah, you want a company who's going to stand by their work. You got companies that have been selling shingles less years than they promote the length of their warranty. So you don't even know if that's even something that they can stand behind, right? With Certainty, you don't have to worry. So I think working with the right brands, and no matter how slick the marketing and the sales pitch is, look at the products themselves.
Yeah, well, 25 years in restoration for me, so hundreds and hundreds of roofs, if not 1,000, who knows? But I've never gone on a roof inspection, and even once thought about manufacturer's warranty, because if a manufacturer's warranty is going to cover a manufacturing defect, so if the shingle's just not splitting down the middle because there was a problem with the machine when it was being made, I mean, there's really not going to be a warranty claim that you're going to be able to get on a shingle. It's going to be granules, it's going to be wear and tear, it's going to be impact damage from things like hail or whatever. So it's, I understand this is a 25-year shingle, this is a 35-year shingle, but I think that's more of a suggestion than an absolute.
For sure. There's some other really great products out there too that, specialty products out there that are really, really amazing. So
I wanted to ask you about some alternatives. I mean, I think, if you want to go all the way, Elon Musk has one that's made of solar panels. You can put solar panel shingles on your roof.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. I don't know how that works. Have you seen those?
Yeah, I have. Yeah. Those are, I work with some Tesla certified contractors that are installing those. And
okay.
Yeah, they're like average roofs, like 250 grand, just big, really nice projects.
Yeah.
It's
so
pretty
what
amazing.
is it? Do they have remember those little race tracks with they put the car on and they would go? Do they have like a channel or something that gets the electricity and they?
I think like every shingle, and I'm not as much of a technical guru on these, but I think every shingle is powered, and then they have their own battery that you purchase with it, and so you have to buy that whole package and that whole system.
Okay, so each one has like a wire or something like that, or
one of those are attached in the system.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I
thought it would be more like you lay down channels across the roof or strips, and then you have contacts on the shingles, and that's how it. And then it goes to the end or something. But I don't know.
They've changed their technology a lot too, so I could be totally screwing this up right now. But
that's all right. They'll have them on Mars.
Yeah, they sure will.
Yeah. What about things like plastic shingles, or is there alternatives to asphalt that are coming out? Of course, they'd have to be mechanically fastened and all, but I hadn't seen anything that would be attractive to me to do. I mean, unless you're going to go with like a tile roof or something.
Yeah, tiles. I mean, I was gonna say that's the more traditional and a beautiful look. Depending, like South Florida's got a ton of tile. Uh, where you're from. I mean, yeah. Have you heard of like the Da Vinci products? Those types of like heard of those guys, Da Vinci?
Yes.
Yeah, that's a really high end, quality product that is a specialty product that is not asphalt. That is a alternative to that has a lot of durability and it looks amazing.
What's that made out of?
I don't know. I couldn't tell you.
Have you seen any of these roof coatings out there?
Yeah.
People's, I know there's one that's a soy-based product. There's some others that are a little bit different. I don't know. I don't know how popular those are going to become, but maybe as there's more retail opportunity there, if there is a cost savings or any other features and benefits, maybe those products become more popular.
Yeah, I think that, when it comes to the product and how it's made, I don't speak to that. I let typically the manufacturers talk to that, and I speak to the strategy more. But what I find with coatings, there's been a lot of coatings companies popping up more in the last 10 years. It's a great economic alternative to a tear down and re-roof, tear off and re-roof and go down to the deck, especially on commercial buildings. And it's a good downsell. I think it's become, for some companies who are trying to break into commercial, it's become a way for them to get high margin projects and be more competitive and take that type of market share from the big guys.
Yeah.
And be competitive. So I find that I think every company should be willing to offer coatings, especially on the commercial side. And those warranties are obviously shorter than a full replacement system. But a lot of them are just selling, they're like white labeling, and they just have a lot of them are the same product just with a different company logo on it. But I think it's a good solution. It's not a permanent solution, but it's a good economic solution for companies. And if you can lead with service and sell service first, and then construction re-roof jobs, but then have the ability to downsell coatings or meet them where they're at, knowing that their budget isn't going to in the cards for a full replacement, you can make good margin and be competitive and have good margin on coatings. So I think there's some companies that only sell that and they're selling against the re-roof, but that's not always what's best for the customer. So I think you need to have it as part of what you do, and maybe not just rely only on that sales pitch.
Yeah, typically more established companies that haven't offered it are going to be reticent to do it because they feel like they're selling against themselves.
Right.
Until they lose a few jobs, lose a few customers, and then they'll probably take a harder look at it. But I do think coatings are going to be part of the industry going forward. I think there's an opportunity to enter the market, maybe even residentially, but certainly commercially. We're in a 22,000 square foot building here with a very low slope metal roof. And we don't have any leaks, and it's a pretty high grade. I don't know if it's a standing seam. I think it's a standing seam roof up there. So, those typically are not going to leak that much, as opposed to ones that have just a ton of, rubber grommet screws in them. But I do, my first thing would be, if that thing starts leaking, is put a coating on it.
Yeah. Coatings, I think, here to stay. I've known companies that have been around that started and then been around a long time now. And I think that shows that it's being well received by people. I think I've seen majority of companies like wanting to break into commercial, jumping on with coatings. That's what I'm seeing a lot of. So It's a good way to start. But then you gotta, then you get certified, and they start to, when they go up market and they can compete on those big projects, they get excited. So, yeah.
For sure. Let's talk about salespeople a little bit. Sales is at the core of your product: sales training, sales KPIs, sales culture. So when you go into an organization and you talk about changing the culture, generally, if it's an established company, they're good operators. People have been there a long time. They do good work. They have repeat business. They've got a good culture, but there's a sales culture is different. Mm-hmm. And in our business, even observationally, I mean, we have one culture in our support team, because we're supporting the franchisees, the ongoing franchisees. And then you've got to have a different culture kind of in your sales team, because it's a different speed. It's a different tenacity. It's a different level of focus, because those people are, I mean, they have to make all these calls, and they got to get people on the phone, and they got to work people through a process. So when you walk into an organization and you're identifying sales athletes that are already existing within the business, or maybe making suggestions on new ones, what's the difference between a good salesperson and a great salesperson?
So we assess using a third-party assessment tool. The company's called Objective Management Group. It's great. And what we measure are 21 core competencies. So if we were to look completely objectively, not just looking at who's got the age, the talent, the drive, just who's got the potential, a canvas to paint on. Like there's like the blank canvas to paint on, then there's like, well, what would we actually be looking for objectively? And so there's 21 of them. They're broken up into 3 different categories. And the first one is the will to sell, which is, I think, like the heart. So that's going to be your desire to be successful in sales, your commitment and willingness to do whatever it takes, as long as it's moral and ethical in sales. The person who's motivated, and we understand how they're motivated, whether it's extrinsically motivated, altruistically, intrinsically. We are able to identify that. Do they have the figure it out factor? Do they take responsibility, or do they blame outside circumstances like the economy or the competitors? What is it? Like, what is their will to sell? Do they have the desire? Because if they have that, a lot of the other stuff could be changed. So we're looking for people who are hungry, people who are driven, people who have a motivation and a desire to see that the vehicle of sales will help them succeed in life. And then we shift into the sales DNA. So these would be, if I were to say this will to sell is the heart, the sales DNA is the mind. I would also like to say it's like the operating system of your phone. You have to update the operating system to run the phone. If you are in sales, and one of the things we measure would be like, we would call it the need for approval. Well, if you're in sales and you have a high need to be liked, and the sales system that we teach requires you to ask great questions and to ask more questions. If you have this high need to be liked, or a high need their approval for them, it's basically, if I think you need to like me, I may be more hesitant to ask you tougher, deeper questions, because my fear is that you therefore would not want to answer those, and you wouldn't like me, and then you not liking me is going to kill my sale.
Right.
Well, right there, we identified that as a problem. That's a huge thing that we identify. If they have a desire and commitment to be better at sales, we can train that. If they don't really have any desire and they don't really care, it's like, let's find some people who are hungry and we'll teach them how to think. So then we work on that. Right? Another one would be like their money ceiling, or their comfort discussing money. We can measure that and say, man, if they think $1,000 is a lot of money, and then we're trying to sell commercial roofing and we're talking about a $2 million job, they're going to be having a really difficult time feeling confident selling the value of that job and delivering that message and that proposal and that price and selling that value. So these are some things
you can't let your lip quiver when you're delivering the price.
That's right.
It's like, I've never even uttered a number this big. You can't do it. You got to be comfortable. Yeah,
absolutely. So we kind of identify that and say, okay, it's like for us, if we're thinking, hey, we want to see you guys be a major league team. And in baseball, we have 5 tools, a 20 to 80 scale. We measure all those 5 tools, and we can put a scouting report together and see what kind of potential athlete you could be in the big leagues and what you project to be, right? We do that for salespeople, and we say, well, here are your areas for improvement, and here is how we can put together, here's the personalized coaching plan to demonstrate that competency change from a low score to what would be demonstrable evidence that you have now that competency. And then we have them retake the assessment. But what really matters is how it shows up in their numbers, right? And so what we find is quickly they're like, yeah, I'm having better conversations than I've ever had. I'm asking questions I never asked before. People are sharing information that I've never heard them share before. Therefore, I'm different than everybody else, and they see me as more valuable, as more of an expert, a consultant, a trusted advisor. and deals are just closing with a lot less effort. I don't feel like I have to overcome more objections. We identified them earlier. Their pipeline's more predictable. Their deals have more sense of certainty around them rather than they're just kind of quoting and hoping, hitting and begging, spraying and praying, things like that. So what we try to do is identify all of the deficiencies that would hold them back from being able to execute a milestone-centric consultative sales process. We work on that, teach the sales process, create reinforcement, and then now they have the mindset and the habits, the time management, and the ability to stay present in such a way that they can deliver on that sales process every day. And it's like they just start crushing it.
If somebody did not have the ability to stay present, what would that be an indicator of?
They're thinking about the past or the future, right?
Okay.
So that means they're too hung up on what they did wrong or something that already occurred, or they're thinking about the commission check that they're maybe going to get for closing this deal. And so now they stopped asking questions in the moment, being present. You could tell when somebody's not being present when they don't have they can't be active in their listening. And active listening means that you can hear what they said, repeat back, and they know that you now understand them. And that's to me in sales the very best way to show if someone's present or not.
Yeah. So if you're you're just waiting for them to finish to change the subject to the next thing, people are going to clue in on that.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Yeah.
So would you say that the greatest salespeople are more born or more made?
Absolutely made. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Really? Through hard work, repetition, training, humility, all of the things?
Yeah, I don't think someone's going to come out with tonality skills and empathy and this skill of asking great questions out of the womb and they just have it, right? I don't think that. Yeah. I think that all of those are trained and made.
Yeah. Although, go back to your 5-tool player, right? So in baseball, you're a 5-tool player in baseball. So I have a nephew. He's a pitcher. He's projected to be a first-round draft pick next year.
Go. Nice.
Yeah. Touches 98, 99, right-hander, pitches for NC State.
Let's go.
From the time he was 2, he could throw the ball 3 houses down the street. I mean, he had the livest arm, and I'm sitting here teaching my kids, all of the throwing, pick the apple off the tree. And I'm trying to teach my kids how to throw and all that. And just and he just came out slinging it. So at the end of the day, I mean, there are things. Now, I will also say that many of the hangups that people have were from an early childhood experience, neglect, abuse, not being listened to, some failures, lack of positive reinforcement, bad personal image, these types of things that maybe, lack of resources, which leads to money, not being exposed to anybody that thought different. So there's all these things. So, okay, they weren't born with those things, but they were given those things. And then that person shows up in one of your sales training classes and you're just like, this is too much work.
Sure.
This person should probably, we'll give them the training, but, based on our assessment that we've done, I don't see the tools. I just don't see the natural tools here. So Are the tools things that people walk in the door with, these 5 tools, or in your view, are these things that you identify 3 of them, you can build 2 of them to get a complete player, sales player?
That's a great point. Like there's some people who have more God-given ability and talent than others. Mm-hmm. Sure. And I definitely know that, you got to use what you've been entrusted with and you've been given a measure of it. I think that selling in reality is a system. There's a system, but you can be robotic about a system and you can have somebody who's got a lot of brokenness and, their mindset isn't very renewed to being growth minded. They're stuck in some old ways. They're easily offended. Like there's a lot of things like that could shine through in a sales call and somebody still never want to buy from them. Right. I could see that. Or they're, So I think you have a good point there. There's going to be talent and there's going to be people without talent. I think that in general, let's look at it this way. the industry, if you're looking at, rural Kentucky with 3 roofers, you don't need that league. If we look at it like athletics, is the equivalent of like, private junior varsity baseball. Whereas if we're in the heart of, South
Cobb
Florida,
County, Atlanta.
yeah, exactly. We're playing in Houston, or we're playing in SoCal. We're playing in, the 10-year-old is legit. Like, he's nasty. Like, he knows the game. He's fundamentally sound. He had to be that good to compete to make that team. And I think what's happening is, you attract, like, the industry is growing and evolving in certain markets, and there's more talented people realizing that they can have success in the trades. So what I think is really fun, and I love helping sales leaders recruit people, is by creating messages that attract high performers and talented people. Yeah. And so then you can now you have, and I don't want to make anybody feel a certain kind of way, but like, I'm 6'2", I try to work out, take care of my health, take good care of how I dress, how I present. That is helping people decide if they want to buy from me or not pretty quickly on how I represent myself. And then I've done the same thing with other teammates. Like, I have a guy who speaks with us. He's very similar. He played pro baseball like I did, played at University of Arkansas. There's just a lot of stuff that's already included in that type of person. And then we teach them sales, we teach them methodology, we teach in their world, it's like, yeah, we could take a talented human being, an attractive person that someone want to buy from that has some relationship skills, and they have a desire to be successful, and they're the type of person that matches your core values. And you could teach them the trade itself, and even teach them this sales acumen that is trainable. So I think with this industry, what's happening is the sport of the trades is now requiring, because of the talent, requiring you to have the talent or the tools of those people that are activated with the system and the training, just like you're seeing in sports, where maybe 10, 15 years ago, people who, they just wouldn't compete today. Like, they just not put in the work. They don't have the talent. They're still having success despite themselves. So
I think that's a really good point. And private equity raising the sophistication of the trades, rolling companies up, creating demand for bigger talent. They have to grow the business. So they're going to invest in talent. They're going to invest in training, which plays right into your business. These are people that are going to need what you do. It's going to be critical for them to hit their numbers year in and year out. What translates really, you mentioned one of your speakers or one of your presenters, but you were a professional baseball player. I was a college football player. And when I talk about business athletes, I say business athletes, but it's not always, when I talk about that, it's not the sports athlete always. I see people that haven't touched a sport in their life, but they're diligent, they're aggressive, they work long hours, they have a big motor, they're fearless, they take chances, they rise to conflicts, they finish all of their work, they train and prepare. They read, they improve themselves, they get coaches. I mean, so when I talk about a business athlete, it can be the least physically athletic person that I've ever seen. And I see some of these people, but some of the people I work with, man, they did not do a sport, right? But you put them on a deal or you put them in a business situation, they are relentless. And, they have 4 coaches helping them become better. And it's just so. In your experience, do you look for the sports athlete and what translates to the business athlete, or are they 2 completely different things in your opinion?
It's a great question. I think in general, they're different things, right? You can have a guy who played, you can have a guy who played in the NBA and like couldn't talk to somebody at all, right? They couldn't be a salesperson. Like, they're like, I've seen it. I've seen professional athletes, but you'll notice though, a lot of the guys who played professional and collegiate actually are really good communicators because they're leaders. Mm-hmm. They're like way different level of talent. Like, that translates in business. So I don't think that in the sense they're the exact same thing, but I do think in a sales role we're finding that because the sales athlete culture that STG is like showcasing and speaking about, we're finding that companies will hire athletes that are transitioning from college, or even pro ball, and they're helping them find that purpose of, you are an athlete, you have been and always will be. You just need a different sport to play that can pay for your future. And so they just, maybe they, I'm one of them. Me and my front end sales guy that does a lot of speaking, like, locker room humor is real. Like, we got to clean that up. You know what I'm saying? Like, some of that doesn't work right now. We got to do a little something different because it's not resonating, with everybody. So no, I think that they're two different things, right? There's a guy I'm thinking of right now who, he's like, dude, I don't have a six pack, I don't work out, but I am a freaking stud at closing deals. And I totally believe in that, because everything you describe but the thing is, 55% of communication is nonverbal. And when you have somebody working in an outside sales scenario and they are athletic, they already are different. They already look different. But, but I think that most of them are really good at working in teams, leading. I think that they're two different things, but in sales specifically, the athlete who has that talent and applies those same skills in the sport of sales has a pretty strong edge.
It absolutely can. When I think about some of the non-athletic best business athletes that I've seen, it actually comes down to this desire. They just hate to lose. I mean, they hate to lose. They're not going to lose more than anything, man. It's like love of the game. I'm going to outsell you. If they happen to outsell somebody, they'll be in the Slack channel, pointing it out, making, and by the way, you need those people. I mean, competition is the best thing about athletics, and bringing that into business in a healthy way is incredible. Is that something that do you create gamification on your sales teams?
Absolutely. I've seen 3-person sales teams where guys work harder than ever just to beat the other guy than they're worried about the money they're making, because it creates purpose, and I think the identity of an athlete and a competitor needs to find a home somewhere. And if it's done in a healthy way, right, where it's done well, I think
the loser's not getting the SpongeBob tattoo on the calf.
Exactly.
That's for fantasy football.
Yeah.
That's for
love the gamification, love the leaderboard, love the competitions. It's fun. Yeah, we love seeing the competitor come out of people.
Well, hey, the biggest disappointment from this call so far is you told me you're leaving Hawaii. I've been, since I met you, we met at a conference, we chatted, and then we actually met down in the gym in the morning. So we were working out and we had a conversation, and I mean, I don't know, was that last August already? It was a while ago.
It was I think it was a year ago, January. I think it was the beginning of the year last year. Yeah. Yeah.
It's taken this long to get you on the podcast. Sorry about that, Ryan.
No, I'm equally the problem. We had to move.
So you've been living in Hawaii for 6 years. Do you live on Maui? Do you live on the Big Island?
Live on Maui. Yeah, we're hoping to keep our property. That's the goal. But we have a nice couple of acre property that overlooks the West Maui Mountains and bi-coastal view and chickens, and oh man, wow. It's a nice life. But it has with the amount of kids we have and the amount of travel I do, and quite honestly, man, like baseball, we do the whole perfect game, travel ball. It's a real budget to like fly, take the family, or take your son rather, hotel room, going out to eat. Like, there's places, on the mainland, you can get that kind of competition to play against right down the street, many weekends a year, where we're like, all right, we're the best team on the island. We're the best players. So like, in order for us to play, we got to go, we go to Oahu. It's pretty good. But then last year so my son made the perfect game all-state Hawaii team, which is the best 10-year-olds. And, the coaches didn't really know him. He was working hard. They didn't play him at shortstop. He had to work his way into the outfield. And, man, it was good. It was so good for my son to like be not the guy and not have an automatic spot in the lineup or whatever. And he worked his way through the lineup. And he came in and pitched against California, and out of the bullpen, no warm ups, just shut him down. Was throwing like 60 and just 3 up, 3 down, 8 pitches. I was like going out. I was going nuts. But then he came in later, and and he was batting the 10th hole spot, which is he's never batted 10th, but he did, and it was 2 outs, 2 strikes, bases loaded, and we were down. If he gets out, the tournament's over. Hits a bases clearing triple. I lost my voice. It was loud words, and I was so fired up. And but the reality is like if I could get addicted to that, and I'd be like, dude, let's do this all the time. And so with between that, the amount of travel I already do for business, the cost of living's real, and the time zone, and just getting up at 4 a.m., going to bed at 8 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
It's just kind of wearing me out. And and I think there's a reality of some optics of like, okay, Ryan is serving the industry, but he's over in Hawaii. He's living in Hawaii. And I just feel sometimes I can't connect to and relationally engage with people the way I'd like to. So it's been a big move. But our hope is that the property, we're going to try to keep it and rent it out. And Lord willing, we're able to go back there and make it a family hearth and something we were able to enjoy as a family. But yeah, it's a great place to visit. It can be tough to live there. A lot of my friends are already retired, and they're just super wealthy, and they have a 6 spot, and they kind of do whatever they want. So
Yeah.
not a lot of guys grinding like I am on Maui specifically, doing the remote thing. So I feel like I'm ready to be around some other people in my town too. So we're looking at Nashville. Actually, I'm actually here right now. We're looking at Nashville potentially as where we land. So
How are people dealing with the fire? And was that all of Lahaina? I love Lahaina, by the way.
yeah, it was like 99% of the fire was in Lahaina.
Yeah.
From our property though, we were there and we actually saw a couple of fires from our own eyes, which was really freaky to be able to see a fire from your property and be like, that's really close. But yeah, no, Lahaina, it's been almost 2 it was this summer, so I think it's been 18 months plus.
Yeah.
It's really on the mend, and but it was devastating. I mean, devastating. There's still people out not living in their homes and living in temporary like FEMA housing. But it's been really neat to see how people in the community have stepped up. It was devastating. That whole place is completely torched. I mean, there's like a couple buildings and houses are being rebuilt though now.
Yeah, but I mean, like the character of the area, the character of the restaurants and the stores, and all of the old surf shops and everything. We've been there several times. Really, it's one of our favorite places to go. And yeah, everything's gonna be new and commercial. And I don't know what the rules are around local businesses and signage and all that kind of stuff. But man, it's. Hopefully it's the same, or hopefully it creates well, you know what? Nothing's ever the same for any of us, but hopefully it creates a new vibe, and the locals cannot get pushed aside too much, and things can get back to some semblance of. Have you seen families that have just picked up and left, or is everybody kind of staying to make a go of it?
A lot of people moved. Yeah, a lot of people moved. A lot of locals moved. Yeah, it was pretty wild. But good thing the whole west side wasn't destroyed. I mean, there's a lot above Lahaina that is still good and that people, are living normal lives. But yeah, a lot of people moved. Between that and COVID, it was like a couple of haymakers to the island.
Yeah.
And when COVID happened, I remember traveling and I was like having to go in and, quarantine every time I got home and all that stuff. It was a lot. And then so the travel, we moved there in 2020, and that was the crazy part. We moved there in April. So the world shut down from events. I had about 10 months where I didn't have to get on a plane to go speak or something. And so that was pretty special. And then there was like nobody on the beach, and we're just like enjoying this island all to ourselves. It felt like it was really cool.
How did you pick it?
Yeah, so my wife had always dreamt of moving to Maui. I think, if I were to give anybody marriage counseling, premarital counseling, is really make sure you're aligned on every major life decision beforehand. she had a desire to move to Maui way sooner than I thought. I thought it was like more of a retirement thing. And so, yeah, when we started to explore like where do we want to live, moving from South Florida, she had already had Maui in mind. And so it was like, you know what, can I take you to Nashville? Can I take you to all these other spots? And then we did Maui, and I saw her light up in such a unique way that I was like, I need to figure out how to sew into this, and because I love her, right, and want to make all her dreams come true. So we did move in during COVID, and yeah, it's been real special for our family. We have some dear friends there, but it's put a lot of pressure on me. That's been pretty difficult. So
And the
yeah,
one
we're
thrown 60 is what, 9 or 10 years old? The 60-mile-an-hour pitcher.
10, yeah.
Is he your
Yeah.
oldest?
He's my second oldest. So I have 12, 10. So Asher's 12, Hunter's 10. Henning is a girl named, she's 8, Naomi's 5, and then I have 2 more boys at the bottom. So I got Rhett, who's 3, and Preston, who's 6 months.
All right.
Yeah.
Well,
A lot of
yeah, I
baseball.
mean, it's with as they get older, there's going to be more pressure to zip over to California and be in a tournament or do something.
More of that. I mean, I want it, and it would break my heart to just kind of say, we just can't do it. And then
Yeah.
we just hope that that myself and the time I give and the high school program is enough, and maybe they go like JUCO mid-major D1, and then they play well and they transfer portal somewhere, and then they, I'm trying to balance the whole like, am I the dad who's like, he already knows everything about their future and I'm architecting it like or I'm still trying to figure that out. Like, how do I parent and create a high performing environment athletically with a large family? And so it's been fun, but we sewed in pretty hard last year, and it was cool to see the fruit. So when we relocate, we'll settle in, put the boundaries up for the family, and then start to, figure out our club ball, travel ball family, and see if we can find a manageable balance. And then, you don't really know what a kid's got until he's hit puberty anyway, right? Like there's kids that are like the best, and then they hit puberty and they kind of tap out. And then there are guys like me who, I was a late bloomer, and it really didn't finish growing until I was about 20, and then I started to fill out, and then it started to kind of click. So, yeah, it's fun.
Do you guys do any homeschooling?
We are a homeschool family right now, yeah, and we'll probably stay like that. We'll probably do a co-op when we move. So, but I'm not opposed to the public school scenario. Hawaii's public schools aren't the greatest, but you can't be a homeschool family and play for your local school when you are in Hawaii. That's a state rule. I've already talked to governor, like state officials, and basically they're like, that'll never change unless it's like, because it's a little bit more of a liberal state, and they want to protect the school system and get more people into the school system. So they were like, it would have to be a national push that overrides that across the entire country. And I was like, okay. So we were gearing up, thinking about maybe like having them go to the local high school, but I'm pretty relieved with the idea of moving to a mainland scenario for all those reasons too.
Nashville's a great spot.
Yeah, we'll see. It could change tomorrow. You never know. We've been all over the place, but yeah, I like the sound of it. We know like 20 families already from our different walks of life that have moved here. Like 7 of them from Maui, which is wild. Like a big group of people moved already here from Maui. So Nashville seems good. You're close by, right? Are you in Charlotte?
Charlotte.
We were looking at Charlotte. Do you like it?
It's been great. I grew up in Chicago. I came out to App State University in 1989, and then a little bit chasing some hurricanes for a few years, but then I ended up back in the Charlotte area since 95.
We're looking at Charlotte. Yeah, that looks interesting to us too.
Yeah, it's great. It's, other than, the thing that Nashville has is you don't have state tax.
It's true.
But, we have, I think, really good property values, relatively low taxes comparatively to other places. We've got all the major league teams. There's still a lot of green space around here. It's pretty good. You can get to the ocean 3 hours. You can get to the mountains in an hour and a half. So
that's all attractive. Yeah, we've been thinking that's been second on the list. It's been right there, like with Nashville, actually.
Yeah, we grew up. My kids are 27, 24, and 21. We grew up taking them to the campground down at the beach, or we owned a townhouse down there for a while. But they spent plenty of time on the beach.
That's awesome. That's great.
Yeah, we're climbing around in the mountains. Yeah, it's not a bad place. Southeast is good. Real quick, I just kind of a spitball here, but trends that you see: labor, kids, young people in the workforce, products, any major trends that come to mind. Obviously, we could talk about AI. This is probably the first podcast you've been on that we haven't talked about AI. So, if you got anything that you want to throw out, but like people are talking it to death, and the robots are going to get us all anyway.
Yeah, AI is going to be the first thing. Yeah, I would say AI has got to be the biggest one. But yeah, I mean, with ICE, like there's real budget going into ICE. It's going to get harder. It's
Labor.
like, yeah, I mean, massive. Like that's the opportunity for people is the next generation they gotta see that just a simple skill, labor, being an American, you can make a lot of money. But it's getting harder, right? It's getting harder and harder. You got people being deported. Trump's not messing around. He's increasing the budget. I don't know what the number was. I did a podcast with the NRCA president, and he shared with me that what they're increasing it to be, and it's not good. So it's not good for labor. So I think that what needs to happen is these business owners need to create that trajectory and that career path. I think that's going to be more and more common. You see people who have to start in the field and can see themselves being promoted into sales and over time, and having to start there. So I think that's difficult. I think AI is mind blowing. I've seen like CRM companies 10, 15 years ago. It's all the agents, right? These agent companies. It's like, boom, there's another one, Broccoli and Netick and Alivo. It's like, bam, they're everywhere. A lot of funding coming into that. So yeah, I think that this industry is more and more valuable, and we have to, and it's just going to become more sophisticated, and it's going to be more competitive. I pinch myself, man, it's what a cool place to be working in, and to see all these changes, it's pretty mind blowing. But I got my wife and my kids we're talking about the trades a lot, just being in it and thinking about it. Like I'm imagining a world where we have multiple businesses within our family doing the trades, and they're all part of it.
Awesome. Thank you for that. All right, Ryan, we're getting about that time. I think it's time that we kind of turn this longboard towards the shore, ride the last wave in. If you want to play, I want to throw you a curveball, and then I want to shoot you a fastball right down the middle. But before we do that, how can people get in touch with you?
Yeah, you can go to salestransformationgroup.com, check out our website. We have a lot of the way we describe our service offerings there. Just book a call with us. You can find me on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram, and YouTube. So just look up either Ryan Groth or Sales Transformation Group. You can check us out. And if you do download anything, you'll be in our email list. And we like to do webinars once a month. And we're typically speaking at most roofing events or attending, so you can connect with us. So yeah, you can connect to me that way, or maybe if you're in Nashville, just hit me up. We can get together.
There you go. Meet you down at the honky tonk. I do like Nashville. The kids are going to love it. Okay, here we go. Curveball. Gun to your head. You've got to start a business in the next 30 days. Can't be something you're currently doing. Where do you see the opportunity in the market? What business would you start?
I feel like if I were to pick a market, I think that like Louisville, Kentucky has the least amount of more developed and mature businesses. And it's a good market, good metropolitan access to a lot of other markets if you wanted to expand. So I would probably do something like a Southeast or Midwest, and I would do a roofing company because I just know it more. I'm not a roofing contractor, so I can say that because I'm doing consulting and training. But
got it.
I would pick that, and I would do residential, commercial. I I would probably do residential first, and
Okay.
and I would eventually mature into being like that Main Street roofer and have multiple. But I know that they're two different businesses, and I'd probably end up making sure that they're pretty separate. But I would start with the residential roofing company
Nice.
in the
Awesome.
Midwest.
Thank you.
Southeast.
All right. Here's the fastball. Last question, right down the middle. If you had one sentence to make an impact in somebody's life, what would that be?
I would say, man, that's a great question. Um, I would have to say that if you need to define success for yourself, and commit to becoming the best version of yourself. And yeah, I would say that to the general audience is define success and commit to being the best version of yourself. And, you know, the, this too shall pass. You're going to get through it. And, what you focus on, you empower. There's a lot of different things I just said. Sorry, Jeff. There's a lot there. One sentence. That's a tough one. Let me say this one. Wisdom comes from experience, and experience comes from making mistakes. I think that's one of the biggest ones that I remember. One of my mentors told me, and it's helped me. It's helped me in the highs and the lows. Wisdom comes from experience, and experience comes from making mistakes. I think our lessons coming from failure can be our best teacher. And yeah, that's what I got.
All right. Perfectly said, Ryan. Thanks for being on today.
Thanks, Jeff. Appreciate you, man. You're a great host.
It's been a lot of fun. I'm Jeff Dudan. We've been here with the incredible Ryan Groth, and we have been on the Unemployable Podcast. Thanks for listening.